it was smart for them to at least see what they could do with Justin Fields. And now this injury is going to change things and the dynamics change. And then there's a question of whether or not this regime's even going to be there next year. Because in the interim, we got a new team president. And who knows what Kevin Warren's going to want after this season, if this season ends up being the disaster that it could be.
Mike, what do you know about Caleb Williams's camp? Because the story that you had back in July kind of resurfaced a little bit yesterday with the idea of him maybe wanting a piece of ownership, which they closed that loophole, right? That's not a thing that can really happen for a player now. But what do you know about his camp? Because between rumors about where he will and will not play and maybe him wanting pieces of ownership, I wonder if that's going to rub ownership of teams in the wrong way.
It really was an amazing dynamic that starting on Saturday, because I can track our traffic in real time. I see what each story is attracting by way of views. And all of a sudden, this 3-month-old story about Aaron Rodgers and Caleb Williams at one point wanting equity in their teams is popping up again. And the whole point of that story was to supply the why as to the reason for the NFL to out of nowhere slam the door on giving employees any equity whatsoever, whether they're players or non-players. And I think it's as simple as Caleb Williams had a bad game on Saturday night. So there's engagement to be had in making him look bad at a time when he had a bad game. Let's make him look greedy. Let's make him look unreasonable. Let's make him look unlikable and unattractive to the teams. The bottom line is this. And I've been an advocate of this for a very long time. It shouldn't happen every 20 years. This is football's version of Halley's Comet, where you've got John Elway in 82, 83, who says to the Colts, don't draft me. And he ends up getting traded to the Broncos. Then in 2004, it's Eli Manning saying to the Chargers, I'm not going to play for you, through his father, Archie Manning, and ending up playing for the Giants. I think the best prospects, the guys at the top of the draft, the consensus number 1, number 2, number 3 overall pick, especially quarterback, they should be using all channels available to them to get to where they think their careers are going to be best situated. We've seen time and again, quarterbacks go to a place where the coaching isn't there, the talent isn't there, the ownership is dysfunctional, and the guy's career gets thrown off the rails. So if I'm Caleb Williams, I'm considering all my options, from staying at USC another year, although that doesn't really solve the problem of the worst team in football getting dibs on you, because that's going to happen the next year. I think the thing that the best prospect needs to be willing to do is say, here's where I want to go. I'm not going to play for the team that holds the first overall pick. This is the team I want to play for, or teams 2, 3, 4, whatever. And I'll just sit out a year and spend my NIL money. That's the one wrinkle in all this. This isn't about going back to school for another year. This is about, at some point, Caleb Williams or somebody else saying, I just won't play this year. I've got $10 million in the bank.
But why delay the next contract, Mike? I don't understand that the money that you're leaving out, like the delay to get to the real payday of the second contract, not to mention the actual effect of not playing. Tell that to Deshaun Watson.
Right, but what if you never get that second contract because you go play for a dysfunctional team with a dysfunctional coach and dysfunctional roster, and you get dysfunctional right out of the NFL? That's the thing. We need alternate universes to see how it plays out. One of the examples I ponder from time to time, 1999. What if Achilles Smith ended up with the Eagles and Donovan McNabb ended up with the Bengals? What would have happened? Would Andy Reid have conjured a fringe Hall of Famer out of Achilles Smith?
No.
And would McNabb has washed out of the league as quickly as he washed out of the league when he wasn't with Andy Reid anymore? I don't know. But I think that first destination for a quarterback is critical. And when you have the leverage, and I'm always in favor of saying push back, push back, push back, this whole honor and a privilege bullcrap about the draft, they're all brainwashed. We're all brainwashed to think that it's like the Harry Potter sorting hat. It's all preordained. We have no control over it. Baloney. You've got control over it. John Elway proved it. Eli Manning proved it. And it's something that needs to happen more than once every 21 years.
You know, we think you're talking about the Bears, right?
I'm sorry.
Because if I was Justin Fields, knowing what I knew about the Bears and how they still haven't had a 4,000-yard passer, and it doesn't look like they will anytime soon, certainly might feel that way if I heard my name called by the Bears when I got drafted in 2021.
Oh, I agree. And now the reality for Justin Fields is he was far enough down the stack that it's harder to pull it off. I think this move, because it happens so rarely, is something that only the top prospect, the consensus top prospect, can pull off. And until the consensus top prospect starts doing it, it's a non-starter for the guys who are taken farther down the line. And at one point, Justin Fields was in play to be third overall that year. Once the 49ers moved up, it was either him or Mac Jones or ultimately Trey Lance. But look at what happened to Trey Lance. Getting drafted into a spot where they have a guy that took him to a Super Bowl. He's still under contract for 2 more years. They're not ready to hand the job to Trey Lance. He's caught, and all it took was 2 years, and his career was completely thrown off kilter. Now, the broken ankle didn't help matters last year, but you don't have much time to really get your footing in the NFL. And we're seeing examples that are really exceptions, like a Geno Smith with a delayed reaction, maybe a Gardner Minshew opportunity this year with the Colts now that Anthony Richardson's going to have season-ending surgery, Zach Wilson maybe. But the window of potentially becoming a franchise quarterback is not open for very long in the NFL. You need to land somewhere. I mean, look at what it did for Patrick Mahomes. Fell to number 10, Chiefs trade up. He gets to sit for a year and learn behind Alex Smith. They make the pivot, and he's got Andy Reid, and off he goes. And I don't want to take anything away from Patrick Mahomes' talent, but you can't say that what's happened to him in Kansas City, just plug and play, is transferable to any other team. I don't think it is. I think he needed the things he has in Kansas City to get the most out of who he is and what he's become. And again, you don't have much time for it to happen. I think it's critically important for that top prospect, Caleb Williams, if he continues to be the consensus #1 guy after what happened Saturday night, to take full advantage of all options he has in the arsenal to get to the team or teams, that small handful of teams where he believes his career can flourish.
I'd add Jared Goff to that list. I mean, there's a guy whose career is completely turned around because he got with the right fit at the right time, and he was able to kind of go back to some of those early days where he was in LA and was slinging the ball around, which is he should be happy about his growth, and Lions fans for sure should be happy with his growth.